The Grenlec debates, powering bright ideas.
Welcome to the 10th season of the Grenlec debates. And I've been saying 10th all year because that sounds really good. Great to see all of you this morning. I want to extend a very special welcome to our representatives from the public and private sector, to the members of our board of directors, Mr. Colin Cover, our general manager, and our other managers and team members from Grenlec. I'm seeing a number of principals here today, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you. Even at this stage, we have you supporting, and that means quite a lot to us. Debaters, past and present, students, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm and special welcome to our finalists, the debaters of the Presentation Brothers College and St. Joseph's Convent. And I've heard historic, but we've had a number of these, GBSS versus Anglican High School, Hillsborough SEC versus Bishop's College, and this year, Convent and Presentation. I must tell you though, for us at Grenlec, each final is historic and special. But I understand your reasoning. Our chairperson for our final debate, Mr. Eric Williams, who is Grenlec's Transmission and Distribution Manager. Mr. Williams.
Welcome to the final of the 10th season of the Grenlec debates. Thank you for being here today and for following us and the debaters through the televised and YouTube broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the proposition. The Presentation Brothers College, Grenada, was established in January 1948, founded by the Presentation Brothers. The school has a current enrollment of 433 young men. Presentation alumni are leaders in government, education, business, research, and other professional fields of endeavor throughout the Caribbean, North America, and various Commonwealth countries. Some of their recent achievements of the college: winner of the Regional CCSLC Award 2016 and 2017, top CSEC students over the last 2 years, 5 students in the top 10 performers in the 2015, 2016, and 2017 CSEC exams, past champions of RBTT Young Leaders Project and SGU Knowledge Bowl, Independence Junior Cricket Champions, National Drum Corps champs as well, champs of the Inter-School Swim Fest for the last 3 years, second place in the Grenlec debates 2014 and 2015. The school motto, and I hope I get this right today because it's in Latin. Many years I haven't pronounced Latin. Virtu e Sanctia. Is that it? I'll give you the English translation. Virtue and knowledge. The principal, Mr. Dominic Jeremiah, he's here with us today. Coaches William Wilson and Alistair Charles. And now we invite the debaters to take their position on the stage as I call their names. Wesley Simon. Terence Slocum, Javon John, Rion Charles, Tyler Bonaparte, and Ali Noel. St. Joseph's Convent, the opponent for today, the opposition. The oldest secondary school in Grenada, and that is St. Joseph's Convent, St. George's, was established in 1875 by the Sisters of Cluny. Convent girls have ascended to the highest positions of regional leadership in government, education, and business, and have spread their wings further afield, excelling in many work disciplines and fields of study. Some of their recent achievements: over the past 5 years, they have achieved an average of 90% in CXC passes, won the T.A. Mauricio Cup and the La Grenade Shield of Excellence this year, GET Financial Literacy Quiz Champion 2016, past SGU Knowledge Bowl champions, past NAWASA Water Wars champion, Junior Achievement Company of the Year, Subway Basketball Champion 2017. The school motto is Labore e orare. To work is to pray. All right, I really tried on that. The principal, I'll get her name right, hopefully, Miss Jill Vivey. Please give her. Coaches, Donna Lusan and Cleo St. Paul. Debaters, as I call your name, please come to the stage as well. Tiara Joseph, sorry. Sharissa Sylvester. Alicia Roberts. Dominique Aban. Shanique Julian. And Ashwarya Jilks. Our timekeeper for today is Mr. Darwin Clouden, and he is being observed by a representative from each of the schools. Please join me now in welcoming our distinguished judges, Mr. Irwin Abraham, Mr. Clint Alexander, Dr. June Douglas, Dr. Carice Knight, and Ms. Sasha Pierre. Thank you. Our chief judge for today is Mr. Irwin Abraham. Our debate consists of 4 rounds. In a debate, both sides are trying to convince the judges first and audience second, and that they have argued their position better than their opponent. Please bear in mind that the debate is not about right or wrong. It encourages a thorough examination of many sides of the issue. And while today's topic is emotional for many of us, this is an exercise that is intended to help our youngsters learn more about an area of Grenadian history of which many remain largely unaware. The quality of the debaters' research and content are important, but their presentation and style also heavily impact the scores. Among the criteria, our judges will be assessing our relevance and credibility, evidence of research, clarity, use of language, and conviction. There will be team points awarded for professionalism. Debaters will be penalized for speaking beyond the allotted time. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have an exciting debate finals for you today. I can't wait, so I call this House to order. The motion is, be it resolved that the merits of the Grenada Revolution during the period 1979 to 1983 far outweigh the demerits. Again, be it resolved that the merits of the Grenada Revolution during the period 1979 to 1983 far outweigh the demerits. In round 1, speakers are allocated 4.5 minutes to outline and begin their team's case. The first speaker for the proposition Wesley Simon. Presentation, Brothers College.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to the battle of ideas. Be it resolved that the merits of the Grenada Revolution, 1979 to 1983, far outweigh the demerits. Oxford Advanced Dictionary of Political Science defines revolution as the forcible removal of a power structure by a group of people and the implementation of a new power structure. According to Black's Law Dictionary, it is frequently accomplished and accompanied by violence. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines merit as a character or conduct deserving reward, honor, or an achievement. Cambridge Dictionary defines demerit as a fault or disadvantage. Same dictionary, outweigh, to be greater or more significant than. It is important that I ask the question, how do we measure far outweigh? Two conditions must be satisfied. One, how have the achievements of the revolutionary period transformed what existed and influenced the present? Two, were the needs of the masses addressed? As the Germinal speak of the proposition, I will incontrovertibly shed light on our conviction as we examine the ways the Grenada Revolution has radically transformed the economic and social wilderness that was Grenada. I will be focusing on the health reforms that were implemented that molded our present society. My second speaker will further consolidate our line of argument by illuminating how any shortcomings of the revolution pales in comparison to the achievements made in the areas of education, women empowerment, and economic renewal. The idea that the revolution left a stigma in the Grenadian society may be an opinion shared by some. However, we are not here to decide if the revolutionary process was right or wrong, rather to show that the achievements made transform what existed and influenced the present. The suspension of the Constitution, the arrest without trial, the deaths experienced during the revolutionary period are part and parcel of any revolution. These violate democratic processes. However, it will be incorrect for one to judge a revolutionary period with values and expectations of a democratic value. What must be considered is whether the needs of the masses were addressed and the achievements made altered what existed. The health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. This ideology infiltrated the PRG health reform programs. Mr. Chris D. Riggs, former Minister of Health under the PRG, stated, and I quote, "Healthcare became a basic human right for all Grenadians," end of quote. In the book, Grenada, the Peaceful Revolution by the EPICA Task Force, and I quote, "The PRG brought in a team of Cuban volunteer doctors, dentists, and specialists. This nearly doubled the number of doctors present on the island from 23 to 40, and decentralized and expanded healthcare in Grenada," end of quote. The number of public health centers and dental clinics increased by 100% in every parish. 28 smaller medical stations were erected in less than 4 years. The cost of doctors' visits in public institutions decreased to $0 and 0 cents by 1981. Honorable judges, these benefits were never available before. Additionally, infant mortality rate decreased by 50% in 3 years. According to Senator Chester Humphrey, and I quote, "There isn't a single citizen in Grenada today that has not benefited either directly or indirectly from the alliance forged with the Cuban government during the revolution," end of quote. Not one single person. The doctors currently providing healthcare in our hospitals are vastly Cuban trained. Dr. Marichaud, Dr. Coy, Dr. Thomas, Dr. Ventu, Dr. Philip, Dr. Donald, and several others. Still today, we have doctors being trained in Cuba in specialist areas such as pathology, dentistry, pediatrics, neurology, and psychiatry. These reforms and alliances are positively affecting our society today. There was a total transformation of the healthcare system in Grenada. The masses were attended to. Remember, the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming the first speaker for the opposition, Tiara Joseph, St. Joseph's Convent.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was a season of light. It was a season of darkness. Charles Dickens. Esteemed judges, worthy opponents, audience, good morning. My team stands in opposition of the moot. Be it resolved that the merits of the Grenadian Revolution 1979 to 1983 far outweigh the demerits. I will examine the demerits of the revolution within the framework of human rights violations. Our second speaker will continue to address other grave demerits. Judges, the qualifying term far outweighs declares that the merit significantly surpasses the demerits. We, however, share the belief of former People's Revolutionary Government supporter Teddy Victor in his book, Deception on Conception, that the glorious gains cannot surpass the inglorious losses. The greatest atrocity that happened in the Grenada Revolution was the suspension of the legitimate constitution, the supreme law of the land which guaranteed the fundamental rights and freedoms of every Grenadian citizen. The 1973 Constitution reflects the Universal Declaration of Human Rights signed by UN countries in 1948. Opponents, acknowledging this, we ardently state that any alleged gains of the Grenada Revolution was circumvented when the PRG breached the Declaration of Human Rights by dismantling the Constitution. Judges, development can never justify any form of dehumanization. Firstly, the right not to be subjected to arbitrary arrests, detention, and torture was severely breached, a direct infringement of the rights of many Grenadian citizens, especially those considered counter-revolutionaries. Grenada Online Revolution Resource 2013 states that during the PRG's reign, 650 persons were detained, 75.6% without charge or trial. As martyred PRG Prime Minister puts it, you get detained when I sign an order after discussing it with the National Security Committee of the party. Once I sign it, like it or don't like it, it's up the hill for them. Secondly, according to former Governor General Sir Paul Schoon, in detainment, individuals such as Dr. Japal were subjected to torture such as brutal beatings and electrical shocks. Opponents, clearly Paul was centered in the hands of a few and abused, a feature of a totalitarian regime. Where was the democracy promised? Bernard Code, former PRG deputy, posits in the Grenada Revolution some key lessons from 1979 to 1983 that the continuation of a political culture of repression of opposing views and groups was a demerit. To illustrate, the analysis of the religious situation in Grenada states that Grenadian churches were viewed with suspicion and were under heavy surveillance. This arose over the PRG's concern that the Catholic Church was perpetuating subversive teachings. To counteract this, the revolution PRG organized mandatory military mobilization marches on Sundays to subvert the activities of the church. Isn't this an outright breach of freedom of religion? Additionally, newspapers like the Torchlight and Grenadian Voice were shut down and their architects imprisoned after they published articles that disfavored the government. Moreover, foreign media houses' broadcasts, such as those from the BBC, were removed, a blatant breach of freedom of the press. Other breaches included arbitrary acquisition of property, the failure to restore free and fair elections, and the emergence of a one-party state. It's sad reality, since in the Bright New Dawn speech, the revolution had pledged to exterminate all pre-1979 human rights abuses and restore democratic freedoms. But, as former detainee Mr. Tillman Thomas opines, the suspension of the Constitution demonstrated a lack of respect for human dignity and ushered in further infringements. Judges, the model of the Grenada Revolution, premised on the suspension of the Constitution, contributed significantly to its demerits. We therefore affirm our view that the merits of the revolution can never far outweigh the demerits. Thank you.
Both speakers are allotted 3.5 minutes to continue their team's cases. The second proposition speaker, Terence Slocum, Presentation Brothers College.
Good morning, everyone. The first speaker of the opposition dismissed our definitions without providing an adequate justification for its dismissal. Consequently, I stand on the definitions presented by our first speaker. I must proceed. The inherited educational system was a tool used by the ruling elite to keep the working class people in perpetual domination and exploitation. Morris Bishop. According to the Director General of UNESCO, Irina Kova, in 2014, and I quote, "Education is the bedrock of sustainability. It is a fundamental right and the basis for progress in every country." End of quote. The PRG recognized this since 1979, and consequently, the slogan, "Education is a must from the cradle to the grave," echoed throughout Grenada. The progressive nature of the revolution must be highlighted as a merit. How has the revolution's achievements in the area of education transformed what existed and influenced the present? Were the needs of the masses addressed? Carrie Grenard answers these questions in her article, Grenada, Socioeconomic Overview, 1960 to 2012, and I quote, "Between 1978 and 1981, the number of Grenadians in university on scholarship rose by more than 700%. Public school fees were abolished, and the Center for Popular Education, CPE, was established to eradicate illiteracy across the nation." End of quote. George Brazan, in his book, Grenada, Island of Conflict, added, and I quote, "The PRG began a 60,000 EC dollar assistance program in 1981 to help the poorest families pay for school books and uniforms." End of quote. According to the Free West India newspaper, published on June 27, 1981, page 15, and I quote, "The PRG created a national teacher education program aimed at upgrading 612 untrained teachers." End of quote. The revolution empowered women like never before. For the very first time, women became skilled in areas such as auto mechanics. They formed cooperatives. They received equal pay for equal work and assumed management roles. Dr. Nicole Phillip, in her book, Women in Grenadian History, enunciated, and I quote, "Women gained representation on farming boards, trade unions, ministerial, and other significant government positions." End of quote. Shalini Puri, in her book, The Grenada Revolution in the Caribbean Present, cited the construction of the airport as the most important infrastructural investment of the revolution. This today is our gateway to the world. Isn't this a merit that far outweighs any demerits? On the economic front, the revolution saw the introduction of agro-industries, established the Marketing and National Importing Board, and saw a decrease in the unemployment rate from 49% to a mere 12%. In the words of my grandmother, before the revolution, Grenada was real coconius. Honorable Chair, the achievements of the Grenada Revolution transformed the society that existed, and these changes influenced the present. The merits far outweigh the demerits. Long live the revel.
The second opposition speaker, Charissa Sylvester, St. Joseph's Convent.
My God, they have turned the guns against the people. Comrade Morris Bishop's last known words. Good morning. In continuing to highlight the demerits of the Grenada Revolution, I must speak about the combining of an ideology of social transformation with military force. Dr. Ken Boodoo, in his paper, The Grenada Revolution, Rationale for Failure and Lessons for the Caribbean, asserts that the PRG used militia as a tool to perpetuate indoctrination and intimidation. Young persons were transformed through this psychological warfare into militants. According to former MP Kenny Lalsing, these militants disrespected even their parents and, when disciplined, reported parents as counter-revolutionaries. Conflicts within families and consequently destabilization of communities became features of the day. Society fell into decay. Another demerit of tremendous significance was economic deception. Former Prime Minister Mr. George Brizan, in his book Grenada, Island of Conflict, asserts that several agricultural institutions experienced a decline in earnings in the sum of $15,789,070 from 1979 to 1982, an alarming economic reality that was hidden from the people. Our most worthy opponents will say that during the revolution, many agro-processing ventures sprung up all over Grenada. But what they'll refrain from saying, as Brizan continues to assert, is that these contributed very little to the public purse. According to the minutes of the Political Bureau meeting on August 3, 1983, economic conditions in Grenada became so grave that the PRG had no choice but to appeal to the IMF for badly needed assistance. To meet the IMF's requirements, the PRG used Cuban Suriname model of double bookkeeping to doctor the accounts. Deceptive. Opponents. Dr. Merle Collins' essay, What Happened, affirms that the PRG's leadership inability to resolve conflict ultimately led to significant political mistrust and the implosion of the revolution. What a demerit, considering everything hinged on their cooperation. Judges, last but by no means least, is the unnecessary loss of life, the crown of all demerits. Who will ever forget the darkness of 19th October 1983 when our leaders, mothers, fathers, siblings, and friends were massacred mercilessly on Fort Rupert? Or the weight of the physical and mental anguish borne by so many Grenadians who continue to bury their hurts within their bosoms? Judges, even assigning the merits collectively, their highest weight still does not outweigh the loss of life. To date, no closure has been given to the relatives of those slaughtered on the fort, whose remains were never, ever recovered. Nothing can pacify the feelings of discontent and tension amongst Grenadians every October 19th. Such atrocity, such mercilessness is a blot on our society. Judges, opponents, how then can we sit here and conscionably argue that the merits far outweigh the demerits? I rest my case.
In the cross-examination round, our debaters will question each other about issues that are relevant to the motion. For the opposition, we have Alicia Roberts, St. Joseph's Convent. And for the proposition, we have Javon John, Presentation Brothers College.
My worthy opponent, according to the minutes of the meeting of the Grenada Political Bureau on Wednesday, the 29th of December, the International Committee of the Red Cross was refused permission to examine and report on the conditions of the prison. Why was this?
My worthy opponent, this pales in comparison greatly to the achievements of the revolution. A few detainees in the prison, my worthy opponent, that were allegedly whatever was happening to them, my worthy opponent. This does not in no way compare to the many achievements derived from the revolution.
My worthy opponent, the goal of the ICRC is to maintain humane treatment of all detainees. Why should Grenada be against this? May I suggest that this was because the PRG aimed to hide the fact that prisoners were tortured, being held without charge, and subjected to inhumane treatment.
My worthy opponent, it could be because the prisoners were in great condition and they did not need any help.
My worthy
Who are we to assume?
I find that hard to believe. I need to move on. Phyllis Cord, chair of the NWO, wrote a letter to the PRG criticizing its members for their immoral exploitation of women and their disregard for maternity leave. Do you agree with me that such indictment constituted a contradiction to the PRG's stated objective to promote women's rights?
Worthy opponent, were all women exploited? No, but all women were granted the right to a good education. All women were granted the right to have a maternity leave, my worthy opponent. For Grenada became the first Caribbean country to allow women to have a national woman organization approved by cabinet. This by far outweighs the few women that were exploited.
Whatever good that was done for women was made negative by the abuses of the women outlined by Phyllis Cord. She was the chairperson of this very committee. And if she was speaking for only the minority, she would not have spoken at all.
My worthy opponent, so you are insinuating that the majority of the population, of the woman population were raped and exploited, my worthy opponent? Is that what you are insinuating?
Having conducted your research for this debate, would you agree with me that because of the physical, emotional, and psychological trauma suffered by many Grenadians during the revolutions, many are reluctant to recount their stories?
Well, the opponent, it is imperative that you understand the moot clearly stated that the merits far outweigh the demerits, my dear opponent. And as such, as I have stated, my first speaker stated, it is so. The merits of this far outweigh the demerits.
My worthy opponent, it is a grave demerit. If people are not telling their stories, then Grenada's history will be lost. Eventually, people who have forgotten their history are doomed to repeat it. Edmund Burke.
My worthy opponent, forgotten their history?
My worthy opponent, in the speech A Bright New Dawn, the PRG stated, "Long live freedom and democracy." Do you agree with me that freedom and democracy actually died under the PRG?
Opponent, do you agree that the number of lives improved as a result of the revolution far outweigh the grief experienced by a few?
It's not a few. The significance is that the rights of everybody have been compromised, my worthy opponent.
My worthy opponent, compromised? The non-traditional exports of Grenada rose from 1.4 million in 1981 to 4.5 million in 1982, a 315% increase, my worthy opponent. The establishment, the amendment of the Act of the MNIB, my worthy opponent, so that Grenada can export its local fruits. Does this not far outweigh the grief experienced by a few?
It does not. How can the loss of even a single human life be justified by MNIB?
My worthy opponent, we are not here to justify whether the revolution was right or wrong. We are here to debate whether the merit far outweighs the demerit. And the merit obtained from these achievements by far outweigh the death of a few people. The unfortunate deaths, if I might add, my worthy opponent.
My worthy opponent.
Opponent, we must move on. We must move on. We have to move on.
I agree.
Time is of the essence. Do you agree that the impact of the achievements of the revolution far outweigh the demerits?
No, I do not.
My worthy opponent, the establishment of an international airport which bolsters our tourism economy today, which we so greatly depend on.
My worthy opponent, this was brick and mortar. All of the establishments that were necessary for the functioning and the use of this airport had to become after the revolution and not during the revolution.
My worthy opponent, but the fact that it was begun during the revolution is a clear indication that they had the funds required to do such.
And they had to appeal to the IMF for money in 1983.
My worthy opponent,
why?
Grenada being a small island state in its own is an indication that funds and grants may be needed from larger countries.
Well,
my
then
worthy
you cannot
opponent.
truthfully say that they had the funds to build the airport.
Time is of the essence, my worthy opponent. Do you agree that health reforms implemented during the revolutionary period far surpassed any government in a 4-year period?
While there may have been merits of the revolution, it cannot far outweigh the demerits that was the loss of human life.
So, my worthy opponent, you do not agree that the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation?
Of course it is.
Exactly. And during the revolution, there was an increase in the amount of doctors present in Grenada from 23 to 40. This was an 85% increase, my worthy opponent. Doctors went out, people went out to train.
Grenada was not the only Caribbean country to improve the amount of doctors in their country at this time.
My worthy opponent, but this was not happening prior to the revolution, so it clearly is a merit of the revolution, which far outweighs any demerit.
It cannot far outweigh, my worthy opponent.
How can it not far outweigh any other demerit? When there was an 85% increase, my worthy opponent. An 85% increase is not significant? That is what you're insinuating?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're into the rebuttal round. During this round, each team will attempt to dissect the other team's arguments and weaken the opponent's case. We now invite the opposition to begin the rebuttal. Dominic Aban, St. Joseph's Convent, St. George's.
Good morning, all. We don't dispute that there were some merits of the revolution. However, these merits by no means far outweigh the demerits. Your second speaker have stated that we refuted definitions. We did no such. You stated that when weighing the merits and demerits, the addressment of the people's needs were considered. What needs of yours were considered when you had all your human rights taken away? They took your freedom, and that's your greatest need in a country. You stated that the revolution transformed our present lives. We agree, you transformed it. We are scarred. Every October 19th, we must remember, and a dark cloud encircles our island. CPE, NTPE, all these programs, they ended significantly with the implosion of the revolution. These things did not last. Where was the sustainability and democracy promised? How can these far outweigh any demerits? You have stated that women were empowered. What positions were empowered when you had to worry about your voice? You know, you voice your views and you would be sent up the hill? Were the opponents? No. You stated that the PRG offered free education. Where did these funds for free education suddenly come from? You had to run to the IMF. That is usually a last resort. Yes, opponents, our nation's health is a nation's wealth. But did we have to commit all these atrocities in order to get health care? No, my worthy opponents. The merits far outweigh the demerits? I think not. The demerits, the gravity of each demerit far outweighs any merits you have listed. I rest my case.
And now, with the final word, the proposition rebuttal speaker, Rayon Charles, presentation, Brothers College.
Good morning, all. Morris was very human, and being human means that he could make mistakes, and he did. Being human ourselves, we do not hold up Morris's imperfections as a valid reason to deny him the honor that is truly his. Your first speaker alluded to the suspension of the Constitution, but worthy opponents, it is imperative that we understand that the needs of the people must come first. It is the mandate of the government to address the needs of the people, and these needs including clothing, housing, food, and education. It is far more important than the suspension of a document. Secondly, your first speaker alluded to the infringement on democratic rights, but as my first speaker clearly delineated, it would be erroneous of us to apply democratic values to our revolutionary process with its own systems and values. Your second speaker articulated on the militarization of the society, but this occurred for a meager 4 years compared to the education of the masses for life, empowerment of women for life, the improvement of their health sector for life. Do we see children and people walking around with guns shooting each other in today's society? This happened for 4 years. Next, your second speaker spoke of the deaths of persons during the revolution. While unfortunate, it is imperative that we understand that not everyone died during the revolution. We must take into consideration that the needs of the many exceed the needs of the few. As my first speaker articulated, deaths are part and parcel of any revolution. Even our revolution was deemed a peaceful revolution as it had minimal deaths. Your second speaker also spoke of the trauma of the people of Grenada. But you are creating the illusion that there are only intangible demerits. There are intangible merits as well, such as the feeling of independence that the revolution gave the country, the feeling of wanting to protect the revolution. My worthy opponents, it went on so far that the people would walk the streets screaming, "Let them come, we'll bury them in the sea," when there was a threat of US invasion. This shows that the people loved the revolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a hearty round of applause for all our debaters.
It gives me great pleasure to acknowledge and invite Senator Simon Steele, our Minister for Education, to the podium to deliver remarks.
Hello, good morning, all debaters, students, teachers, principals, parents, sponsors, friends all. I wasn't down on the program to speak this morning, so these are impromptu remarks, but it would have been remiss of me to sit here, listen to the quality of these debaters and not make a few comments. What we have seen this morning is impressive, really outstanding. What we have seen with the quality of the debate, the intellect, the effort that has gone into this is a credit, first of all, to the debaters themselves, an absolute credit. But it's also a credit to the teachers, to our schools, to our parents who would have worked with those students to get them to where they are today. And we often focus on the negatives in our education system. But again, what we have seen today and what we've seen throughout this competition is the outstanding qualities and positives that exist within our education system. I have a personal connection to today's to this competition. My son, Joseph, I'm going to embarrass him, he's sinking in the seat at the back, but he too participated in this, and as a parent, speaking as a parent, not as Minister of Education, but I can attest to the amount of work and dedication that each individual student would have gone through. So I'm not only proud of my son's achievements, but I'm proud of each and every participant in this debate. So proud. On Friday, I will be in the Senate. The following week, the lower house sits. We have the budget debate over the course of the coming weeks. And when I look at the quality of work that has gone into this and the quality of the debating, us who sit in Parliament should be inspired by what we have seen today. And I think we can learn something from what has been presented here today. So and then I'll simply like to end by once again saying how impressed I am of all those involved and my deepest pride to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Steele. And we'd like to also extend our appreciation to the Ministry of Education for their continued support of the Grenlec debates over the 10-year period. I am now inviting Grenlec's General Manager, Mr. Colin Cover, to deliver remarks. Mr. Cover.
You know, the first speaker for the opposition used this phrase: it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was a time of light and a time of darkness. And we are in those times even now. And although I'm an engineer and I am quite confident and I believe that technology and its advances will lift mankind's standard of living to new heights. But I've always been intrigued by the way words can be used to transmit ideas and images, but most importantly, to lift the human heart. You know, there's a poem by Dylan Thomas, and it contains these words in it. Do not go gentle into the good night, but rage against the dying of the light. Because darkness is coconia, in the words of the second speaker of the proposition. And I want to encourage all of us to continue that rage against the dying of the light. I want to thank the minister for saying that he will bring that to Parliament and to the Senate. And I want to invite the Senate to debate here with us next year. It is a hope that these Grenlec debates are used as a weapons against rage and against the dying of the light. It is our aspiration that these debates will provide fallow ground for the teachers to sow seeds of light into the hearts and minds of the students, that they will learn to listen respectfully to the other side, to respect others and give them a chance to speak, and after that, present their side, not to shout over your opponents or interrupt with snide remarks. You know, in the Caribbean, I've watched as we've become a society of shouters. We have lost respect for each other. And in all walks of life, we want to be heard, but not to listen. Whether it is politics, religion, sports, or any walk of life. Life is a dichotomy. It has always had two sides. There's life and death. There's health and sickness, hot and cold, east and west, positive and negative. And all of them have their parts to play. And there's also light and darkness. And in this environment, this dynamic environment, we have been placed by God. When we look at persons, we either choose to say the good or the bad in them. It's our choice. Teachers, the students that have been placed in your hand and into your care come from varying backgrounds. You're not prophets nor psychics, but you have to choose to see the light in them all. And when you do that, you'll be raging against the darkness in our society. And to you, the audience in general, sometimes you find yourselves in difficult positions, and people have different opinion, and sometimes it makes it hard for you to be a candle in the darkness. But your words and your actions will reveal whether you are raging against the darkness or raging against the light. I appeal to you that we all should raise against the fading of the light. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cover. We will immediately begin our awards, and I want to begin by inviting Ms. Linda George Francis, our first presenter, who will be presenting the People's Choice Award. This year, we recorded nearly 900 audience votes on Facebook for the favorite debater. The debater with the most votes and the winner of the second People's Choice Award is the new owner of Beats headphones. Congratulations, Jevon John, Presentation Brothers College. I'm beginning to get the feeling that there might be some other schools that also voted for Jevon. Thank you very much, Ms. George Francis. We are pleased to welcome our next presenter, Mr. Colin Dow, who is a member of our Motions Committee and the current chair of the Complaints Committee. Mr. Dow has had a long association with the Grenlec debates, and we are pleased to have him here with us today. The Sir Paul Schoon Top Debater Award is presented to the debater with the highest average of the points awarded by the judges up to the semi-final. And that's an important distinction from the People's Choice, where we vote on Facebook. So this is about points. The winner will take home an iPad and the beautiful trophy that Mr. Dow has in his hand at the moment. We are delighted to present you this year's Sir Paul Schoon Top Debater, from St. Joseph's Convent, Tiara Joseph.
Let's not be blind to economic realities. We know that our government cannot provide job opportunities for every skilled worker in society. We must acknowledge, based on the 2017 Organization of American States and IOM regional report, that there are some.
Thank you very much. And Tiara, congratulations. I have to tell you that it was a very close run with a member of your team. So well done to the ladies of St. Joseph's Convent. So again, please put your hands together for Presentation Brothers College and St. Joseph's Convent. I'm going to tell you the scores. The top score was 727.5 points. And the next score was 706 points. I know you're not going to listen to me after the winners, so let me tell you what the winners are taking home. Second place, debaters, certificates of excellence, $850 education awards. Debaters and coaches, Acer Aspire touchscreen LED notebooks. The school, it's the 10th year. If you remember, on our 5th year, we had something a little special. In the 10th year, we have to have something a little special. The school is receiving a Technology Project Award. We have some thoughts about what that means, and we'll be working with you to come up with whatever your wish is or your need is. Our champion will take home debaters, certificates of excellence, $1,000 education awards, and they use those to pay for exams or sometimes get uniforms and books, various things. Debaters and coaches, Apple MacBook Pro laptops, and the school, a $60,000 Technology Project Award, and the most important thing to us, the coveted Challenge Trophy. And I'm happy but a little saddened that in 10 years, we have not been able to get rid of it and get a nice spanking brand new one. So we're challenging you going forward. If you win 3 times in a row, you get to keep the challenge trophy at your school. But we'll polish it and put it back up on the shelf at Grenlec, and you can visit with it anytime you want. And now, and we know that the end of every debating season begins with "and now," right? But after "and now," we have to probably say 1 or 2 other little things, right? And now, by any measurement, 10 years is a lot of time. But it's also a lot of debaters, a lot of coaches, judges, supporters. We've done this setup for a final 10 times. Most importantly, we are celebrating the development of our young people and the impact that this has had on their lives. And we're also extending our appreciation to all of you who have contributed over the years, and you are many. Thank you to Mr. Colin Dow for serving on our motions committee and chairing our complaints committee. To the other members of our motions committee, and many of you have been with us for many years, it's 10 years, we have to say thanks. Let's be grateful. Principals, parents, and the wider school communities, and every year I see more parents attending. Thank you. To Glenelg Water, we appreciate your support throughout the season and the many seasons that you have supported us. To our service providers, for your valuable support. Coaches and debaters, and you have to give a round of applause at this point. And even I can't draw it out any further, so. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you speak, I have to say ladies and gentlemen again. Whew. I saw Convent do a thing there. What was it? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you our 10th anniversary Grenlec Debates champion, Presentation Brothers College. PBC, you may have the use of the hall for a few hours after we have adjourned, because I know you have a lot of celebrating to do still. And to St. Joseph's Convent, congratulations. You are also winners. So allow us to present the prizes. St. Joseph's Convent, please remain standing because we're inviting you up. Mr. Cover is going to present to you. Can we have the entire team, please? In second place, St. Joseph's Convent, St. George's. Coaches, Donna Lusan and Cleon St. Paul. Debaters, Tiara Joseph, Sharissa Sylvester, Alicia Roberts, Dominique Aban, Shanique Julian, and Ashwarya Jilks. And I have to tell you that this is really the best that Convent has ever done. In 10 years, they have not gotten past the quarterfinals. Well, only one time. So, well done, Convent. Congratulations again to Convent. I'm inviting Senator Simon Steele, our Minister for Education, to join you. He will present our challenge trophy. Presentation Brothers College, I see you no longer need to wait to be called. You're behaving like champions. Well done. Own it. Coaches William Wilson and Alistair Charles. Debaters Wesley Simon, Terence Slocum, Javon John, Rion Charles, Tyler Bonaparte, and Ali Noel. Mr. Jeremiah, you are here. Please join your team. And this is PBC's third time to the final, so congratulations. Well done. Thank you, Minister Steele and Mr. Cover. Congratulations again to our 10th anniversary winner, the Presentation Brothers College. To all of you here today, thank you all for being here.
The Grenlec debates. The Grenlec debates. Powering bright ideas.